Alright guys, TouchCrab back again today with the second upload of the day, once again the third time in about 3 weeks. Now we've got to talk about Chicago Huntsmen finally confirming Prestinni onto the starting lineup, just as I did my video a couple of hours ago speculating that that may have well been the case. They did officially confirm it, as did the Mutineers, as did Huntsmen. There's so many storylines to talk about here. Will the Huntsmen get better because of this change? Will it hurt the Mutineers in the long run? What could it mean for their squad going forwards? And of course also Gunless, where might he go? Will he stay on the bench for the Huntsmen? So many things to talk about. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Right on the verge of 19,000 subscribers now. Let's smash through that boundary tonight if we can. Like if you guys enjoy the video as well for the double upload. And let's hop right into things. So first of all, Mutineers come out with this. Today we are announcing the transfer of Prestinni to another CDL team. I wonder who that could be. We thank him for his tremendous effort and time with us. His passion for the game and competing will undoubtedly carry him far. I mean, he's a world champion. Best of luck and we'll see you again soon at World Champ. So then we get this from Chicago Huntsmen confirming the same thing. Welcome to the team, Prestinni. Time to hunt. And we all know what this change is. It's Gunless out. Well, Gunless out for General. General was a placeholder as we discussed. Now Prestinni is in for General at this time. And of course, this reunites the twins, right? Arcetes and Prestinni, world champions last year on a United, now reunited alongside Formal, Scump, and Envoy is now the full squad. There's a lot to discuss here on paper. Just wanted to discuss really quick. I thought this was a kind of funny. Mutineers saying the twins are back in action. We're here for it. Of course, the first thing to discuss here, right, is Mutineers letting Prestinni go. I imagine this was in the works before. Mutineers had their pretty damn poor weekend last time out, where they got an 0-6 in map count to the Rocker and then to the New York Subliners. Got pretty much bopped the entire weekend. And we were talking for a long time that Prestinni, you know, could have been a good fit in that team. They do decide to get rid of him. He goes over to the Huntsmen, and now they're looking at Awakening as an option, is the rumor right now. So for the Mutineers, it doesn't look great, right? Given that they've just got rid of Prestinni and don't seem as of yet to get anyone in exchange. We haven't seen anything surrounding where Gunless is going to go yet. There's no confirmations around. We'll talk about that here. So, Prestinni comes out with the statement, I haven't been this excited, motivated to compete and improve in a while. Grateful for the opportunity to play for a team like Huntsmen. Getting to work immediately. Gonna get this job done, my friends. Thank you guys for the overwhelming amount of support. So, this is what Prestinni comes out and says. And first of all, now we've talked about Florida Mutineers, how it might affect them negatively, given that Prestinni, as a world champion and a great versatile support player that's going to fill roles, he's a pretty good guy to have on your bench. He's no longer there. He talked about start of the season, you know, forming an underdog team surrounding the Florida Mutineers. I think they've done that. They've won an event now without him, and he's obviously looking to get one up on them, I suppose, by going over to this Huntsman squad. We've talked about how it could be for Florida. We've got to talk about how this might be for the Chicago Huntsmen, right? Because start of the season, you look at the Huntsman team and you thought, damn, this team is deadly. They've got two of the, you know, many of the greatest players to ever play the game. And then you've also got Envoy on the team, very much new to the scene and just dominant from the through the Black Ops 4 season from that Midnight Esports team all the way through. So with all that in consideration, it looked like a fantastic team. A lot of people were saying, I think Hex even said, most talented team they have ever put together, which is quite a statement, you know, meaning OpTic Gaming, NRG, and whatever Hex has been involved with, Hector and Scump really, mainly. But you look at this team now, and I always felt like after they won the London event, I said in a video at the time, the trajectory for this team, compared to the other squads in the league, and compared to, for example, the Dallas Empire, is, in my opinion, on a downward trajectory, because Gunless, as much as, you know, he's a fantastic player and a really great personality to have in the scene, in my opinion, for those of you who have watched the Eavesdrop podcast with him, but it's no secret that many of his teams in the past, and will continue to have maybe into the future, do end up having chemistry issues, and I imagine the egos on this squad, to some degree, got out of control, and, you know, it just seems to be a recurring theme with Gunless's teams, that eventually, things in terms of chemistry break down, and we talked about it a number of times. Obviously, they had poorer and poorer results as the season has gone on, and it felt like to me that they probably need to execute some sort of a change to compete with Dallas and Atlanta and all the other teams like Subliners, for example, who are getting better and better. And of course, Florida actually beat the Chicago Huntsmen a while ago when Prestinni was on the team, and of course he beat Arcetes, and that is indeed the screenshot that Preston has in his AVI right here. So with all that being said, does this make sense in terms of a move? I think in terms of chemistry, it 100% makes sense. Bringing Prestinni back alongside RCT seems to make overwhelming amounts of sense. And then, of course, once you've got the chemistry discussion out the way, then you look at the role dynamics, and it very much makes sense to me. Because in my opinion, Chicago are probably lacking a selfless player. Someone who's willing to fly out first and take the hits in terms of the scoreboard to get the job done overall. I think they were probably missing that player. Like, Scump is never going to be that guy. He's just a slayer through and through, I guess you could say. And Envoy isn't really in that same caliber. Envoy probably needs a guy right up there with him supporting at the front, who's willing to do the dirty work, I suppose, as it has been considered in traditional Call of Duty. And Prestinni, of course, a very valuable asset to that United team that won the World Championship last year. Yes, they had Clayster, RTC, Simp, Abizi, obviously all those players, but you look at Prestinni and obviously an underrated asset of that team, right? Because when Prestinni was going off, that squad was dominant, borderline unbeatable. So it's probably going to be a similar thing here, to be honest, if they do get a lot of numbers out of Prestinni at times, right? Which he's definitely capable of putting up. So yes, in my opinion, this change makes sense. I'm surprised that the Florida Mutineers seem to have just given him away, I guess you could argue. Yes, I'm sure they're getting a fair bit of change in return, but is this going to be a long-term great move for Florida? Probably not, given that Chicago on paper now, in my opinion, I think they're a better team than they were. Yes, the gunless question is always there, but if gunless and the chemistry is working on fire, you're probably going to be the best team in the game. The fact that they're not says to me that probably this team should be better, and I feel like they'll feel more confident in themselves, having made the roster change in a similar way, you could argue, to how OpTic Gaming have done with Chino coming in for JCap. JCap, of course, pretty much put up the same numbers as Chino did that weekend, but the whole squad seemed to chem better and work very well from there. And if you want to look from a pure statistical standpoint, yes, Gunless probably was the poorest performing player on the team the entire season. These stats courtesy of Cam Allen, link in the description box below. But yeah, intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below as well. Do you think this Prestinni move makes sense? I think that if there was someone to move, and there's someone realistically you're going to move, because at the end of the day, Scump and Formal, they're never going to be leaving the team. Let's just put it that way. I find that incredibly unlikely. So if there is a change you're going to make, and the chemistry issues that we know that Gunless can create on teams, it makes sense for it to be minus Gunless. And if there's someone else you want in the squad with a meta as it is right now and in terms of chemistry, I don't really think you could have handpicked a player in the league much better than Prestinni, to be honest, with all those aspects included. So I do really like this move. I think that it could bump them up in the rankings, but I don't think they're going to immediately skyrocket to a #1 team or anything like that. In my power rankings, I probably had them third. Right now, they're still going to be third until they prove it otherwise. But going into this weekend with a relatively small amount of practice, with Prestinni in the squad, pretty much only started practicing last night to our understanding. With that being said, maybe they're not complete favourites going into the weekend, but I think they should be the #1 team there, given that Dallas and Atlanta are not at this weekend's Seattle home series. Their probably closest competition is like Rocker or Subliners, or maybe OpTic Gaming, to be honest, or something like that. So we will have to see how things go. But the other side of this argument, or the other side of this discussion, is where Gunless will go. So Hector did a few tweets. I want to thank Ben Spoon for working with us, getting Preston. Look forward to continuing the Mutineers Huntsmen storyline in the CDL, which isn't really as spicy anymore, given that it's not the twins against each other. They're now back on the same lineup. But this tweet is probably the more interesting one. I would also like to thank Gunless for being a stand-up dude during the process, and hope we can find him a home soon. Chemistry is a T1 component of any successful organization, and sometimes things just don't work out. I appreciate him as a person and as a player. So this really is the interesting line. Hope we can find him a home soon. And I like this comment that Unchartify makes on this, right? If you're a team right now in the CDL, you probably don't want to just be holding players to the bench, because if you do that, it doesn't look very good on you as an organization. Players, of course, want to compete, they want to play. And yes, I suppose Florida and Huntsmen are at their own rights to just say, look, Gunless, we're going to pay you, you're going to sit on the bench for the rest of the season. But that doesn't seem like a very good thing to do, and Hector probably isn't that guy that wants to do that, right? Even though, in my opinion, if I was Florida and I was just purely cynical business perspective, I'm not getting rid of Prestinni because he's going to improve another team that he could potentially go to. And if I'm Hector, I don't want to get rid of Gunless because he can improve another team that he could potentially go to. However, Hector is implying here that he's happy to find Gunless a new home. Pac-Man talked on the podcast most recently that he doesn't think that's going to be OpTic Gaming. For those that have suggested that, Pac-Man says that due to contracts and other things within the team, he doesn't think they're going to be making a change like this. So OpTic, maybe not out of the question, but definitely consider that that's relatively unlikely. So with that being the case, where could Gunless go and he could find a decent home for the rest of the season? That is a question that remains. And then Hex says a super thank you to General for being an exemplary teammate in and out of the game. The respect you give your teammates in this org doesn't go unnoticed. Happy to continue to be your teammate. So this real quick is Gunless's tournament results over his career. Of course, the Rise Nation, which eventually broke down at the end of the season. LG, they won a championship, then it fell apart shortly after that. Then he was on Envy, that never went well. Then it's the Huntsmen, and you know, really catalogue of errors, to be honest, in Gunless's career, the latter half of how teams have ended up working out, right? Which is a question that, you know, could be addressed another day. We'll have to see where he lands next. There's many teams that might do like a talent like that, especially for a latter half of the season, which could really step up the roster to the next level. But is it going to be easy to work out in terms of trade negotiations, and where could Gunless go, right? That is a question for consideration. We'll have to see how things turn out this weekend, and then maybe teams will consider even more changes than they already are. I like this take from EasyMac as well. It's pretty interesting that he talks about this trade reminds me of when Envy let Hoot go to Spice on loan for next to nothing. Florida probably should have kept him, seeing as it's really hard to get a fair value in trades, and they could have just made a top team even better, while they 100% could use him now or in the future, which is a cynical mindset, right? Just to say like, look, we want to keep Prestinni on the bench and not let him play elsewhere because we are at our right to do so. And it is a similar thing to what Envy did last season, letting Hoot go to Spice. Not like that change worked out very well, but they let Hoot go with the proviso that he would then come back to the team, the Dallas Empire, later in the season, which he did, and then they've won championships. So at the end of the day, you can't really blame it too much, but it is interesting that teams are putting their reputation, I suppose, and their reputability amongst the players above necessarily just business interest, which is, to be honest, kind of cool to see. So I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts on this in the comment section below. Second upload for the day as always. Whatever we'll discuss tomorrow, I'm sure will be interesting. There's a lot going on right now. Thanks for watching as always. Like if you guys enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. I'll see you next time.